from the Mercy One studio. Making It Personal with Bishop William Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and iowacatholicradio.com.
Welcome to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. I'm Kelly Mesher-Collins with the Diocese of Des Moines. On today's show, we're visiting with Olivia Ring and Cody Fischer, two missionaries for the Fellowship of Catholic University Students, better known as Focus, serving here in Des Moines. They serve at Drake University Newman Center, and we'll talk to them about their ministry with college students and how their work has changed amid COVID. But before we get to today's interview, let's find out what's on the Bishop's mind.
Yeah, well, in November, we continue to absorb not only the Great Saints Feast, but obviously our national political scene and the reconfiguration there that's happening. Even as we speak. It's a rainy night in Georgia here. But so obviously our grave concern for our brothers and sisters who've been affected by COVID in any way, and obviously the spiking of that's filling our hospitals and other institutions. And so we have taken stock of that in the Diocese of Des Moines and have had to take some decisive steps, all with the great goal of protecting and preserving our ability to celebrate Eucharist together. You know, we know how we had to fast for so long. And once we've kind of arrived now where we are doing largely, most parishes, there's a few places I'm a little concerned about, not necessarily observing everything, but I think for the most part, it's one of our safest places. And I think, we're far beyond where we would have been in terms of the infection rate, in terms of, allowing ourselves to kind of, and we don't want to retrench on that. So we do have to take other apostle events into stock. And effective Monday of Thanksgiving week, running through the Feast of the Baptism of the Lord in January. So through the whole Advent and Christmas season, we are going to suspend all social activities in all of our parishes. So any kind of parish-centered social activities. And obviously, it's a big time for holiday and other kinds of things, Christmas and school and all those things, So with a goal to protecting, our schools and the primary delivery of their mission and in educating our young people, and the ability to celebrate sacraments together. So it's going to be a sacrifice call for all of us. And obviously we want our priests to continue to be available to celebrate the sacraments and how this goes. So I think that's something that really is placed upon us as a way. So Kelly, this kind of ripples over what's going on around the world.
Sure, right.
Priests too, and in Europe and other places.
Yes, well, in Rome, obviously, we have four of our seminarians who are studying over there. Reed Flood, Alex Kramer, Mike Mahoney, and Max Carson. And I know you have some information on this as well, that they have decided to go virtual for a little while because there's been some COVID outbreaks over there. Right, correct? Yeah,
and even the North American college community, but obviously throughout Rome, and I think our Holy Father has taken stock too in this
Yes,
way. Yeah.
So the Vatican museums are going to be closed amid the tightening coronavirus restrictions. So they will be closed until December 3rd as they implement more restrictions. And along with the Vatican museums, that includes the Scave tour of St. Peter's Tomb, as well as pontifical villas. They will close to visitors. Actually, that starts November 5th, so that already is in place.
Yeah, and I think Mike Mahoney was leading Scave tours, so he's out of a job there.
Oh, right.
Now, no excuses not to study more, in that way.
Right.
But, obviously with the Roman universities. And we're concerned, with Max, we have a vested interest in getting him back safely for a December 30th diaconate ordination in St. Pius Parish. So we pray for the safety of all of them, but particularly Max too. So
that's right.
Yeah. So this past week, we just celebrated Veterans Day. It always coincides with the Feast of St. Martin, the soldier turned Christian and bishop in this way, Marnatur. Always coincides too with the harvesting, the Beaujolais wine, but we won't go there. And so, but a great respect for all of our men and women of the armed forces and what they do to bring peace. So meeting with Ross Audie's dad, Kevin, from St. Francis of Assisi Parish. Ross graduated from the Naval Academy this past spring and is now in Navy SEAL training in Coronado, California. So we bless the St. Michael's Medal that his dad and mom wanted to give him for his protection, physically and spiritually, as he puts himself out there for our nation's safety and peace. Looking forward to next week. Typically, the nation's bishops gather in Baltimore for their annual meeting. This year, it is going to be a virtual meeting. So we had a preliminary session. Just so these bishops, some of them are more technically adept than others, how to use the technology for our two plenary or full gathered sessions. And of course, our Region 9 bishops will also meet independent of that. So that's coming up on Monday or Tuesday of next week. So praying for our nation's bishop, pray that the Holy Spirit guides us in all that we're about.
All right, we sure will. We're going to take a quick break, and in return, we'll welcome our two missionaries for Focus. You're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
Thank you, Blessman International, for their support of Iowa Catholic Radio. Everyone lives their life 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. How we use that time directly affects if our life will leave a significant impact or not. Each year, Blessman International leads Central Iowans on a 12-day, all-inclusive experience sharing the heart of Christ with children in South Africa. Teams are forming to do something significant in an African child's life. Learn more at blessmaninternational.org. That's blessmaninternational.org.
Is it time for a new roof? Then it could be time for you to get to know Bell Construction. Bell Construction is a roofing company entering its 30th year of business. They specialize in residential re-roofs, like commercial jobs, and have the experience to meet all of your roofing needs with personal service. With Bell Construction, the owner will come to your home or place of business in person to inspect and ensure the quality of work that you deserve. They pride themselves in working with you on a personal basis and making sure you are satisfied. Bell Construction, 515-963-4494.
Welcome back. I'm Kelly Musher-Collins with the Diocese of Des Moines. On today's show, we're visiting with Olivia Ring and Cody Fischer, two missionaries for the Fellowship of Catholic University Students, better known as Focus, serving here in Des Moines at the Drake University Newman Center. They'll tell us about their ministry.
It's so great to have you, Cody and Olivia. Cody, we met last year, but that's all a blur. That was the first week after my installation at the Iowans for Life event at Prairie Meadows. And then I think I met you both on the concourse at Christ Our Life, too. So it's great to have the chance to get to know you a little bit better and hear about your ministries and everything else. And a kind of a preview to my being with the St. Catherine community this coming Sunday night, the 15th, as we'll install Father Protas formally as pastor of the parish. So it'll be great, Father Protas Sopando Aqualo. So he's been doing great work, and so maybe part of what we'll touch on is how you collaborate with him. But can you just tell us maybe some of your background? You know, this is Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen, where you came from, where you went to school, and this kind of spark in your heart that you became a Focus missionary. Olivia, Let's go first with you. Cody can wait.
Okay. Ladies first. Thank you so much for having us. So Cody and I actually both went to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. I'm from Minnesota, but went to school in Nebraska and got a degree in elementary and special education. I grew up Catholic, and by the grace of God, I went to college knowing I wanted to be involved in my faith. But it was when I encountered the Focus missionaries that I saw that it could be, that Christ could be part of my whole life and that I could have a very personal relationship with him.
Okay, so that was at the Newman Center in Lincoln then, is that right? Yeah, among
the
Cornhuskers. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like you were out of touch with the church. It's just, this kind of took it to a new level. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, exactly. I encountered Jesus in the Eucharist in high school. I had a great youth group there, but going to college, I think it was very easy for me to believe the lie that I needed to be perfect and fix myself. But coming to college and working with Focus missionaries, realized that that's the Lord's job, and I'm just called to be in relationship with Him.
Okay, so just accepting that unconditional love, and that's where the real freedom is. That's where things begin to happen in our life. But when it's our kind of self-help project, that's an exercise in frustration, isn't it? So the way the grace touched you, and so I'm glad that came through loud and clear. And special education, elementary education, that's a unique vocation and calling that you've maybe paused on that. Do you think that's still something that that tug on your heart someday to enter into that?
Yes, definitely. I don't know to what degree, whether it would be in special education or perhaps teaching at a Catholic school, but I absolutely love my time student teaching and getting to build relationships with just a younger age group. So,
tremendous. So, and Cody, likewise for you, and of course our Spirit Catholic Radio listeners in Omaha and Nebraska as well. They must be, feeling very proud now that they sent two missionaries into Iowa, crossing the Great Missouri River into that wild frontier of Iowa, and where the heathens are and everything else. So, can you tell us about your story a little bit, Cody?
Yeah, well, I definitely can't speak into the Nebraska-Iowa rivalry on air here, but maybe an off-air conversation sometime. But yeah, so as Olivia said, I guess first off, thank you very much, Bishop, for having us onto the show. But as Olivia was saying, I also graduated from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. I was born and raised a Cornhusker in a small town called Hardington, Nebraska.
Okay.
And it's interesting. If you look at right now, there's about 800 focused missionaries throughout the country. And I guess I couldn't even tell you an exact number, but probably right now anywhere from 50 to 150 of those 800 do hail from the great state of Nebraska. So there's a lot of great things happening there. And I actually was blessed to come from a town, small little farming town. But right now, there's currently 5 missionaries serving from my small town of about 2,000 people.
Oh my goodness!
And so the Lord has definitely blessed our little community up there in the northeast corner of Nebraska.
Wow.
And as Olivia said, also ended up going off to the University of Lincoln. Not quite sure what I was going to get into, but ended up finding an amazing community in the Newman Center there, an amazing relationship with God. I was definitely able to strengthen that relationship with Jesus Christ in community, and I think Focus really played a big part in that as well.
Wow, no, that's tremendous. And maybe if we had more time, we could unpack, what happened, what's in the culture in your town that you grew up in. Is it the family structure? Was there a really charismatic priest, or just kind of that whole combination coming together in that way? So, what we would attribute that to. That Newman Center must really be something. I know my former diocese, Dubuque, the present shepherd, Archbishop Michael Jacels, who was also a Cornhusker and everything else. But as he'll say, he was dabbling with Buddhism and things when he was an undergraduate, and it was the experience, I think, at being at the Newman Center there that really awakened his personal relationship with Jesus. So there's some impressive bloodlines there that happening. So. And we think, a little farther south than Lincoln, Benedictine University. I know a lot of Lincoln people go down to Atchison, Kansas, things too. So there's kind of a synergy there. So those are like two little mitochondria in the cell in the body of Christ in that marvelous way. So, but you can tell the old life science coming back here. But what was your major then, Cody?
Studied English and Spanish at the university.
Oh, that's a great combination. So the liberal arts. All right.
Yep.
So, all right. And then the invitation, or this just, as you were approaching graduation, you knew that you had to do something for the Lord and for his church. Is that what sparked you? That's a typical Joensen-esque statement. That's a question. I'm sorry. So Focus became, you were ready to pause in any other life path and say, I'm going to devote these years. So, 800 missionaries, that's really blossomed here. I mean, my 10 years as Dean of Campus Spiritual Life, we were always working with Focus, great diversity. There are 4 missionaries, including 2 usually varsity Catholic, who are working with the D3 athletes at Loras College. Were either of you athletes in any way or involved in varsity Catholic?
I have not been. I only played intramurals, so that has been my extent of varsity Catholic.
Well, sometimes at a big university, that's almost like D3 level. If I remember, when I was in intramurals in Iowa City, I think they could put the herd on some D3 teams on the basketball floor. But, so you apply, and obviously it's not automatic. You're not necessarily God's gift to the church, right? I mean, there's some discernment if in fact this is a match, and Focus and Curtis Martin, and who kind of oversees the whole thing. So you were selected, and then you're really giving yourself over because you can't really designate where you'll end up. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So Drake University and that, had you heard of Drake before you were actually assigned there?
Yes. I actually was born in Des Moines. My parents moved to Minnesota when I was 2, so I was very familiar with Drake. I didn't expect to move so close. I think when they talk about you could go anywhere, you imagine it will be somewhere farther, but it has been a huge blessing coming to Drake.
Okay. That's the rest of the story. Des Moines girl there. Okay. So,
yeah.
Marvelous. So, and for you, Cody, obviously, Des Moines a little bit larger than the environment you grew up in, but Lincoln's a large city as well. So can you talk about Drake and the relationship of the Newman Center with a larger campus, which is not Catholic, and how that provides opportunities and challenges for you both?
Cody, do you want to start?
Yeah, I think that would be great. I was just sharing my testimony a while back. I forget exactly who it was with. If it was some guys, working with some guys on the Drake soccer team. It's been awesome to lead a Bible study with them. Sharing my testimony the other day, though, you kind of look back and realize the University of Nebraska, in and of itself, is actually 15 times larger in my entire home city. And so one of the first things I was struck with, probably the first day or two I got onto campus, was realizing that, in a big city, it's not the same type of environment where you're driving around town and everyone does the one finger wave over the steering wheel to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Rather, it was, I think I spent the first couple days of college as a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed freshman, and, I'm trying to wave at people, trying to smile at people, and seeing a lot of things not necessarily reciprocated. So it did take time to blossom into that environment and to figure out exactly where I was. I think it took some experimentation with different lifestyles, I'll say, but ultimately definitely found my home with the group of people in the Catholic Newman Center. I was actually blessed to know there's a young lady who now is a religious sister with the Servadoras out in Washington, D.C., but she was actually the first person of probably 8 in the last 10 years who became a focused missionary from my hometown. And so for me, it was really great that as I got into college, I was struggling with my identity as far as how much emphasis am I going to place on my grades, on my social life, on my dating life, whatever have you. She was definitely a good grounding factor, I think, in that, to say, hey, every single Thursday night we're going to have a Mass here. Hundreds of students get together for Mass. We're able to come together afterwards and just rejoice in fellowship in the Lord. So it was definitely a big adjustment for me, but I left and knew I was living at home after 4 years.
So it kind of opened up the skylight for you in that way, and that's really something that this witness that you had. So here at Drake in the Newman Center at St. Catherine's, and kind of a combination. We have people from the community, but also students in that blend. Where is that a blessing, and where does that pose some missionary challenges for you? And let's go back to Olivia.
Yes, yeah. It has been a huge blessing to be able to work in and through St. Catherine's at Drake. I think we have a great relationship with Father Protas and with our campus minister, Aaron, to be able to work together with students. And I think it's been a huge blessing to have the parish site as well, to be a part of it and to also teach students. The goal, right, is to, after college, to enter into a parish and to bring life there, to encourage them to become leaders in the parish. And so for them to be able to see the parish side as well and to start to live that in college is a huge blessing. It definitely requires some more communication, I would say. Father Protas is juggling more than we do, working mostly with students, but overall it's been a huge blessing.
I mean, I know a few Wednesdays ago he drove down, even as kind of, because he oversees campus ministry in the whole Diocese of Des Moines, and he drove down to Graceland on Wednesday night a couple weeks ago for Mass down there with the students at Graceland. So, yeah, he's centered obviously at Drake, but his ministry is definitely itinerant, if you will. He moves around on that way. And so students, as they move, and their experience of church probably was, even if they were part of a youth group, parish-based. And so sometimes a little nostalgia. They're looking for that, looking to land. Sometimes I think they end up checking out parishes in town. But, their peers and the whole energy and focus, with no pun intended there, is toward, their own age group and the kind of evangelical spirit that prevails in this way. Do you feel support from the Drake University itself, as it's one of the several obviously student ordering chaplaincies that are at Drake?
Yeah, I can speak a little bit into that. This is actually, I'm going into my 6th year of focus. So this is the 3rd separate campus I've served at. Graduated from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Went and spent 3 years at West Virginia University. Ended up making it to Ball State in Indiana and now Drake. I felt incredibly blessed by a lot of the opportunities extended to us by the Drake community. I actually remember last year, Bishop, when you came for the blessing of the brains last year, the president of the university was actually able to attend and really stand in solidarity with the students there. There's a great gentleman who I think is now the Associate Dean of Students, who is very, very inclusive of all beliefs, and I think that by the grace of God includes the Catholic faith. I think at a time where we're starting to wonder about how might Christianity be being pushed into a box, but I think Drake University has been very inclusive of our community, and even the small on-the-ground details of, as an adjunct staff on the campus, I actually have the opportunity to go into the recreation center to meet students. I have the opportunity to go into the dining hall to encounter students there, to eat lunch with students, and everything. Even having a staff email is really great to be able to keep up with all the Drake updates, basically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I was just moving to that, and you're kind of already anticipating, the primary ways in which you are actually present with and to students. So it could be in the fitness center while you're working out, and, some people are open to being chatted up when they're there, others not so much, But talk a little bit more about that, where, the whole model of focus, the outreach that goes on and trying to win souls for Christ.
Yeah, I can start with that one. I think just the model in general was so influential for me because when growing up, what I thought of evangelization was someone standing on a street corner and just yelling, whatever they would be yelling. But to see that evangelization is actually relational, and that's what we focus on, no pun intended, again, as missionaries, to meet students where they're at on campus, whether it be at the rec center or I like to find events that are happening, which are a little less common these days, but things that I would find interesting to meet students there. And then you already have an automatic connection to start to build friendships. And that's usually where it starts. I know for me, I put more stock in what my friends say and how they speak into my life. And so that's the whole goal, to love these students and to introduce them to Jesus through that.
So loving them and not so much an agenda, but to let that love speak and then hopefully open their hearts. So good stuff. I think if you're open to remaining with us a little bit, it's coming up for a time for a break, but let's keep the conversation going.
Sounds great.
We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
Thank you, Blessman International, for their support of Iowa Catholic Radio. Everyone lives their life 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. How we use that time directly affects if our life will leave a significant impact or not. Each year, Blessman International leads Central Iowans on a 12-day, all-inclusive experience sharing the heart of Christ with children in South Africa. Teams are forming to do something significant in an African child's life. Learn more at blessmaninternational.org. That's blessmaninternational.org.
Is it time for a new roof? Then it could be time for you to get to know Bell Construction. Bell Construction is a roofing company entering its 30th year of business. They specialize in residential re-roofs, like commercial jobs, and have the experience to meet all of your roofing needs with personal service. With Bell Construction, the owner will come to your home or place of business in person to inspect and ensure the quality of work that you deserve. They pride themselves in working with you on a personal basis and making sure you are satisfied. Bell Construction, 515-963-4494.
Welcome back. I'm Kelly Mesher-Collins with the Diocese of Des Moines. We're back with Olivia and Cody from Focus.
Thanks for hanging with us for a few more minutes here. So, Olivia, you're kind of talking about just attending things that maybe are not explicitly religious, but that's where the connection and common interests, and then hopefully the chance to form a relationship. What happens from there? And again, my familiarity, there's probably some Bible studies or other groups that are included in that. So we'll kick it over to Cody now. Cody, could you comment?
Yeah, perfect. So I think, as Olivia said, we love to get out onto campus. And I like to think every single thing we do in Focus is, at least in this ideal form, modeled after the life of Christ. So I love when Christ wanted to encounter his apostles or his disciples, he didn't simply say, come on down to the synagogue this Saturday, we're having Shabbat. He actually went and encountered Peter and Andrew at the fishing boat. He went and encountered the woman at the well. He encountered Zacchaeus up in the tree. He encountered Matthew in the tax den. And so after we've been able to go out onto campus and encounter students, I think the next thing really does come, maybe to put in the words of Pope Francis in Evangelii Gaudium, after we've encountered someone, we need to accompany them. And so just in the same way, Jesus, after making disciples or asking people into apostleship, is able to basically ask them onto a journey with them. He says, leave your nets behind, leave your mat behind, and follow me. And so we have the awesome opportunity to, again, after encountering students, to invite them into the small group Bible studies where they can be surrounded by peers who are similarly striving for Jesus with them. We have the opportunity to meet up with them, whether that's one-on-one, one-on-two, for lunches, for the opportunity to work through formation material. And after we've accompanied them, that's kind of a long process in and of itself, but they actually have the opportunity to commission them as missionary disciples themselves. And so what Pope Francis, again in Evangelii Gaudium, would call spirit-filled evangelizers. And so, as Olivia mentioned earlier, the grand goal is never for one individual student just to have an awesome experience in college. Mm-hmm. It's that and so much more. The goal we have as Focus Missionaries is to set every single student's heart on fire for Jesus, and actually commission them to reach their peers in the same way. I think maybe a cool example of that is probably about 7 or 8 weeks ago, I met one student coming into Mass. He was a new transfer student onto the Drake soccer team from Mexico. And basically what happened, through the power of invitation, through the power of accompaniment, within the next 7 weeks, the student actually had invited, first it was 3 of his teammates, then it was 5 of his teammates. Now there's actually been 10 soccer players to this Bible study in the last, again, 2 months. So really incredible, and having the opportunity to meet up with these students. We actually met up just last night over Zoom because they ran into some COVID exposure. But just to be able to walk with them toward Jesus wherever they are is absolutely incredible as missionaries.
Oh, that is. That's so invigorating. So hopefully I'll get to meet some of them again, maybe with the COVID restrictions and things, but even at this Sunday's Mass. Any ways in which kind of COVID has kind of thrown a wrench in the missionary approach or limited you? Olivia, back to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say we've definitely had to be creative because of it. Working, I guess, more in smaller groups and keeping it smaller. We haven't been able to do big events, but I think a blessing that has come from COVID is a lot of students have realized that they need community, and there isn't a lot of other events or social clubs going on at Drake because of COVID. And so by the grace of God, worship is still allowed, and so we're able to invite people into those Bible studies and into small groups. So there's definitely a blessing in disguise with it as well.
Okay, tremendous. Now, has this impacted the national conference? I can't remember if we're in a Seek conference or a leadership conference this year, and what's going on in January with that? We've got about 20 seconds left here, so yeah.
Okay, so the conference will be virtual, but our hope is to, while keeping safety precautions, to be able to come together as the Drake community of students to watch the talks together and to talk about them in small groups. So
beautiful. Well, may the Spirit continue to activate all that you're about in your ministries. And thank you for taking time for us, Cody Fischer and Olivia Ring. Good to have you. And again, we'll see you soon.
Great. Thank you very much, Bishop, for having us.
This has been another edition of Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen.
You can hear Making It Personal with Bishop William Joensen every week on Iowa Catholic Radio and iowacatholicradio.com.